Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem video. This is a postmortem of an over-the-board game that I played. So this was played at the recent Labor Day Tournament, Labor Day 2013. This tournament was a 6-round Swiss system tournament played over 3 days. So there were 2 games each day, morning and afternoon. And each game had a time control of 90 minutes for the first 30 moves and an hour for the remainder of the game. So 30-90 game in one with the 5-second delay in both time periods. And that leaves about 5 hours per game, gives you plenty of time to really think about the moves, makes for some interesting chess. I didn't have a great tournament. I was playing in the A section, and there was a lot of which is players rated 1800 to 2000. And there were a lot of players from the B section that were playing up. So most of the players in the section were lower rated than me. And I still ended up with a score of only 2.5 out of 6. That was 2 wins, 1 draw, and 3 losses. So not such a great tournament. After tournament rating dropped from 1876 down to 1849. So I guess I'll have to work harder in the coming months to earn back those rating points. But in spite of that, I played some good chess there at times, and this was an interesting game I wanted to share with you guys. So this was a first round game. I was black, and my opponent kicks off with d4, and I go into a Nimzo-Indian. And my opponent plays e3, which if you've watched some of my videos, you may have noticed this is a line I play, the Rubinstein variation of the Nimzo-Indian as white. So it was interesting. I know quite a bit about this position from both sides. I was trying out a few new ideas here. I just castled. This is the normal move. And my opponent plays knight f3 here, which is not the usual move. The usual move is bishop to d3. And because the bishop has not been played to d3, I could try something like knight e4. But this does not lead to a whole lot. I mean, I'm putting extra pressure on this pen piece, but queen c2 is an adequate defense. And then maybe f5 to defend the knight. This would be a position that would be interesting to play. But still a fine for white. And I chose to go the more traditional route, c5. This is a standard kind of move in the Nimzo-Indian, just trying to undermine the center. And my opponent follows up with bishop e2. So bishop d3 could have still been played, and then we would be back in the main line. Bishop e2 is not quite as good a post for the bishop, and maybe black pretty much equalizes at this point. So we continued development. My opponent castled. I bring out my knight, and then I played the move d5. And this sets up an interesting position with a lot of tension in the center. And my opponent decided to relieve some of the tension right away, which is not a bad idea, actually. What white can do here is white can give black a isolated queen's pawn, and that will become a target for white later in the game. And so the first move here, c takes d5. I take back with the pawn because I want to maintain some sort of influence on these center squares, and so it's better to have a pawn there for that purpose than a knight, which doesn't exert any influence there. And then white should probably continue that plan by taking on c5. So we get a position like this: d takes c5, bishop takes c5. And this is the isolated queen pawn position I was talking about. So this is okay for black as well. He gets active post for his pieces, but this is a long-term weakness, and white can play against it by blockading it and developing an attack on it later. In particular, if this survives to the endgame, it becomes a weakness. A lot of times black will try and just push it ahead quickly and dissolve it. And then all his pieces become very active. So that's the general strategy. But my opponent didn't play that. Instead, the move queen c2 was played. And now here, I made an interesting decision, which was to take the pawn. But there was another, there's a little trap here I wanted to show you guys, something to watch out for in your own games. It might seem pretty natural in this position to play queen c7. But this this actually loses material, and if you want to check it out, I've given a clue here as to what the problem is. So if you want to pause the video and see if you can figure out why how white can win at least a pawn here. Go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away. Pawn takes pawn. You might have guessed that part. Bishop takes. And now this bishop is loose here, and that can be exploited with this move, knight to d5. So this is a double attack. The knight attacks the queen attacks the bishop. And so if I take his knight, queen takes bishop, and white has just won a pawn. So in this position, if I wanted to just continue developing, I could probably move the bishop or play something like queen to e7 would work too. Because in this case, if white tries the same trick, the bishop is defended, so I can just grab the knight and I'm a piece up. So it doesn't work in that case. But it's all because of queen on c7 doesn't defend the bishop, and the bishop is loose there. But anyway, I didn't think about that too much. I wanted to try a different idea here. This is a more positional idea. I wanted to create a certain structure in the center, and you'll see it here. I play c takes d4, and well, my opponent took back first with the knight, so I exchanged knights. And then this is the structure I'm talking about with the two pawns in the center like that. So these pawns are a permanent feature of the position now. They give squares for both sides. You know, I have these squares and my opponent has these squares, and it creates good and bad bishops. You know, this pawn obstructs the dark squared bishop and this pawn obstructs my light squared bishop. But the bishop is not as bad as it might seem. I go ahead and play bishop e6 immediately, and you can see that the bishop defends that pawn, and it still has some scope along this diagonal, so it's not like this is a terrible bishop. And also the bishop e6 frees up this knight to move. So my opponent is feeling a little bit uncomfortable about this situation here with the knight. If I were given enough time, I would just play my rook to c8 and then take this knight, forcing a recapture with the pawn, and then I would have a permanent weakness here on c3 that I could target, a backwards pawn. So my opponent tries to prevent that by playing a3 and then b5. But b5 is a bit of a mistake, or b4, a3 and b4. But this move b4 is a bit of a mistake, actually, because it weakens. Well, first of all, you think it's weakening this square here, and maybe that's the issue. But that's not the big problem. I think the big issue is it weakens this file. So I can immediately put a rook on this file, and this knight here is no longer supported by the pawn, and so it comes under fire pretty quickly, and you'll see that in the game. My opponent plays rook d1, I play rook c8, and then bishop b2. And actually, at this point, the computer already thinks that black is better. So it was these two moves. Before that, even with this move b4, and the chess engine still thought white was doing fine here, just thinks that white needs to play the move bishop to e3, and for similar reasons that I put my bishop on e6. Frees up his other pieces to not have to worry about supporting this pawn. And and the bishop still has scope on this diagonal. Whereas in the game, as it was played, rook d1, defending the pawn because I had attacked it with the bishop, bishop to b2, and this bishop is not doing much here. Even after the knight moves away, it's just hitting its own pawns, and doesn't have a lot of scope. So white is black is already a little better, and I increase the pressure with knight e4, just ganging up on the pin piece, and my opponent plays f3, attacking my knight and forcing me to do something immediately. So this is another good point where I play an unusual move here. So that's a little bit of a clue. This is a good point to stop and think about it. There are different plans that could be played here. The move I played is not the only one, and it may not even be the best, but it is interesting. So why don't you pause the video and see if you can figure out some different plans for black in this position, and see if you can decide what you think is the best move. Okay, I'm going to start giving away answers here. Last chance to pause the video. The chess engine, I did not play this, but the chess engine recommended the move knight takes c3, followed by bishop takes c3, and then bishop to c7, hitting this pawn over here. And it wasn't clear to me at all what was going on with this. I mean, there is still a pin, but this bishop has just relieved the pin. But the pin is still there. Notice that this bishop can't move away. I don't want to put that on the board. If the bishop moves, I have bishop takes here with check, and that would win the queen. So this bishop can't move. And if black does a nothing move, like bishop to f1, just preparing to, sorry, that was already here, bishop f1, yeah, then I can still play bishop takes h2 check, because after the king takes, the queen comes here with check, hitting the king, and I'm going to, after the king moves, I'm going to win that bishop. So after bishop c7, the chess engine recommends playing g3 to stop these threats. And then bishop takes g3 anyway. Pawn takes, and queen to c7. So this is a really interesting idea, I thought. So I'm threatening to win the bishop back. And at the same time, I'm threatening to win this pawn on h3. And this pawn is, it's more than just winning a pawn over here. It's actually a mating attack. After queen c7 here, if, let's see, if he defends, something like this, queen takes, and now the king goes here, it's checkmate. So that's game over. So king has to go to the corner, and then just rook c6. Now threatening to just move the bishop out of the way and bring the rook over here and checkmate. And black is not entirely, I mean white is not entirely helpless. There are some moves that he can play to defend, but in all lines, black at least wins major amounts of material. So that is a winning attack. So the best line is just to defend this bishop with king f2 or something, and defend the pawn with king f2, and then give the bishop back. And so I would have just won a pawn and be on my way to winning the game. That was not what I played. So this was the move was just played was f3, knight e4, f3. It's my turn to move. I didn't really see that. That's a pretty interesting combination. I didn't see that one. But I saw another move that was kind of interesting. And if you want to think about it some more, you can pause the video again. I'm going to give the answer away. I played queen f6, just leaving my knight hanging there. So my knight is under attack, and I'm saying, take my knight, please. And it turns out, I checked this with the chess engine, and both sides played the best moves here. It's best to take the knight, and then the idea is this, bishop takes d4. And now that's a check. And it's also double attacking, or triple attacking this knight. I've got queen, bishop, and rook, and it's only doubly defended with the queen and bishop. So this will win the knight if the king moves. So white can sacrifice the exchange here, though. So white actually has gotten 2 pieces for the rook. I have an extra rook, and he has an extra 2 pieces, an extra bishop and knight. But I get 2 pawns because I just won 1 pawn, and yeah, the king is in check. Okay, so the king cannot go to f6. I mean, the king cannot go to f8, f1, because of queen. I guess I have to put this on the board. If the king goes to f1, there is queen f6 check. And now block the check in some way, and then pawn to d4 wins the pin knight. So that's not playable. So the king has to go to h1, which is the move that was played. And like I said, all these were the best moves. And then I played d takes e4 here. So this is as far as I had calculated. So if you want to compare, this is the position we started with f3 was played. I had to calculate that out. Queen here, winning the pawn, and then taking back over here. So queen f6, f takes e4, and I had figured this was the best line, and it turns out that was correct. King h1 and pawn takes. I just wasn't sure exactly whether this is a sound combination or not. Depends on whether I can keep the extra pawn, because 2 pieces are worth more than a rook and 1 pawn. But with the rook and 2 pawns, and particularly these being central pawns, if I can hold on to them, then the rook and 2 pawns are worth more than the 2 pieces I gave up. So this is a slight edge to black here. And my opponent played rook d1, which is what I was expecting, and then I played the move queen e3, which is the best way to try and hold on to that pawn and also maintain some threats against white's pieces over here. So white's pieces are kind of tied up. This is pinned, and he plays the move, white plays the move a4, and that gives me time to play f4. But the chess engine did not find anything better than a4, so yes, this is okay. So I breathed a sigh of relief at this point because I said, I've consolidated my material advantage, and the game will continue, and I should have a slight edge here. And that's the evaluation of the chess engine as well. So b5 was a bit of a mistake. I think the engine prefers the move rook d6 here, which is just trying to activate that rook. A little bit risky because it does leave the back rank undefended, but it hits my bishop here, which is not protected, and wins a tempo. So after this, I play rook fd8 because I want to exploit the back rank, and as long as the rook is there defending it, then I can't do that so easily. So I thought it's to my advantage to trade off rooks here, and so then I have a rook and he doesn't, and I can make these kind of back rank threats. My opponent played h3 here, which was also considered the best move by the chess engine. It gives space for the king, so it eliminates some of these threats. And then I went ahead and took the rook, and my opponent took back with the queen. Now it was possible here to take back with the bishop. Yeah, let's play that. And the chess engine recommended playing rook d8 here. I don't know if I would have played. Yeah, I probably would have played that. I mean, this is an interesting way to play with the rook coming in here and threatening to get something on the 7th rank. So this is slightly better for black again. Black retains a slight advantage in most of these lines. My opponent took back with the queen. And this actually is also okay for white. It's the next move that caused a little bit of trouble. So I took this was my idea, is to take here, and after bishop takes, to take with the queen. And this is how the game went. And now I'm just 2 pawns up, and the queen and the bishop are the same color. So I just have to be careful I don't get into some kind of perpetual check here. But I had checked ahead of time before doing that combination that my queen was covering these squares here. So when white's queen comes down to d8 to check me, I go with my king to f7, and then there's no other square to check me from. The queen can't go here, here, or here because my queen is covering the square. And in the previous position, my rook is covering this square, so there's no room to throw in a queen d8 check as an intermezzo before taking back the rook. But the chess engine points out another move that could have been played, queen d6. And now this is really a difficult position now. So my bishop is hanging, my rook is hanging. I'm not in check, so I have time to defend against these threats, and I'm expecting to, trade my rook for that bishop. But I need to hold on to this bishop, and it's not so easy. If bishop back to f7 allows queen to d8 check, winning the bishop, so that would be good. And yeah, in fact, that might even be mate. So not good at all. So king f7 could be played, and then white has the move queen e5. And this is just really annoying because now I can't move my rook because there's this threat. Well, I can move it. In fact, the recommended move by the chess engine is to play rook c1 check. But it opens up this diagonal, and the queen and bishop are forming a battery against g7. So this is pretty nasty. And also, the queen is guarding this diagonal here. I was hoping to play something like rook c8 check and queen to this square and mate over here, and that's just not happening in this position. So suddenly, the chess engine rates this as slightly better for black, but it's very, very tricky. And I'm glad my opponent didn't spot that the natural move bishop takes c3 was played, and I didn't discover that other line till after the game. So queen takes c3, and we're all okay again. Queen d8 check was played, and king to f7. And as I explained before, there's no place the queen can go to deliver another check. So now I'm just 2 pawns up and winning the game, and sort of the most dangerous parts of the game are over. But I'll go ahead and go through the rest of the game, see how it wrapped up. Bishop h5 check. g6 is the only move to block the check. Bishop retreated. There's not many good squares for that bishop. I've got this strong wall. This is locking in my own bishop a little bit, but white's bishop doesn't have a lot of squares either, and my bishop can come out to c5 eventually. So queen c8. I just want to activate my pieces and chase the queen away. I don't want to be tied down. So queen h4 was played. King g8. I didn't want to allow, if the king goes to g7, the queen can come right back here to e7, so I didn't want to allow that. So king to g8. Queen e1 was played, and now I go b6, just stopping these pawns. And my plan is just to consolidate a little bit, make sure everything is safe, and then gradually push forward my advantage with these pawns. So white doesn't have much of a plan. White pretty much has to wait around and see what I do. So king h2, queen to d7, just gradually I'm going to get everything on the 7th rank here. Bishop to e2 was played. I play h6, queen to c1, trying to find other avenues into the position and also hitting the pawn. King to h7, that was my idea of playing the pawn up, right, was to make space for my king over there where it's not exposed to checks. Then queen to c3 was played, queen f7, queen d4, bishop d5. I want to protect the d pawn so that I can push the e pawn. I want to protect the e pawn so I can push the f pawn forward. King h1 was played, and I play f4. And now it's all happening. I finally got everything set up the way I wanted, and white was really helpless in that position to do anything about it. That's kind of position you want to get yourself into, where your opponent has no counterplay. So queen d1, and now I can just push ahead with f3. If white takes, I just take back, and it's protected enough, and then it just marches through, and I win at least a piece there. So bishop f1 was tried, and I play the move. This is another test for you. I play one more move, and my opponent resigns. So this is the last quiz in the game, but it's an interesting point. If you want to stop and think about it, I'm going to give you another chance. First, I'm going to discuss things that don't work, and then I'll show you the move I played. So if you want to pause first, you can pause now. Okay, the thing that doesn't work so well is if I just take here. And then bishop takes. And now, I'm probably still winning this position, but now it's a little bit awkward. My bishop is under attack by the queen. I have to keep my queen defending it. This pawn is kind of pinned. I can't move it forward because then I would lose that piece. So that's not so good. So now we're back to this position again, and if you want to pause the video a second time, or a first time if you didn't pause it the other time, and think about the move that black played here. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away. I played the move e3. And now this is just deadly. I still have this threat of taking here, but I think the bigger threat is just to push ahead with e6 to e7. No, e3 to e2, forking those two pieces. And also this takes here with check wins a piece as well. So this is all good for black. And so my opponent resigned at this point. So I thought that was a pretty instructive game. There was actually just a few slight mistakes by white in the opening, and then suddenly black just had a very strong position and was able to convert. So leave any comments you have in the section below. If you like these commentaries on over-the-board slow chess games, I've got a playlist called Over the Board Chess. I'm going to be adding this to that playlist. There's only 3. I think this is the 3rd game in the playlist now, but you might check out the other other videos in that playlist if you enjoyed this one. So yeah, that's it for this one. If you have any comments, leave them in the section below, and I will see you guys later. Bye.